Before we discuss the Vidian Reach incident, I need you to understand something about human engineering methodology. Actually, no, that's not quite right. There is no human engineering methodology. That's the problem. That's what I'm required to teach you now, per Council Directive 88J, subsection, Operational Realities Contradicting Established Physics. The smell in a human maintenance bay is your first warning. Heated synthetic polymers, degraded lubricant, and something they call coffee, which isn't a machine smell at all. It's a drink. They just spill it on everything. The Vidian Reach station smelled like all of that, plus rubber. I didn't know why yet. I was the Galactic Engineering Consortium's lead investigator. 5 years of academy training. 12 published papers on structural integrity under extremist conditions. I arrived at Vidian expecting to document a disaster. Instead, I documented something worse. Vidian Reach should have been a tomb. Micrometeorite swarm punctured the primary coolant system, secondary power grid, and atmospheric regulation simultaneously. Every simulation we ran afterward gave the same answer. Total life support failure within 4 hours. Evacuation impossible. Nearest ship was 9 hours out. 14 humans aboard. 14 humans still alive when rescue arrived. The engineering crew's official report was 3 pages long. The last page just said, "Made do." Made do with what? I kept asking their station chief, a short human named Okoye, who wore magnetic boots even in working gravity. Made do with what? She walked me through the maintenance bay. You're gonna want to sit down for this. I don't sit during inspections. It's unprofessional. I sat down halfway through. This, Okoye said, is our primary coolant loop. She pointed at the main thermal management artery. Standard titanium composite construction, rated for extreme temperature differential. Normal. Then she showed me the repair. They'd sealed a 15-centimeter rupture with something called athletic tape, not emergency hole sealant. Not thermal-rated composite patches. Tape designed for wrapping human joints during recreational games. That can't handle cryogenic coolant flow, I said. Been handling it for 6 days. The thermal expansion alone. Yeah, it bubbles a little. She scratched her neck. We rotated every 8 hours. They'd wrapped the entire section in 47 layers. The tape was rated to negative 20 degrees. The coolant runs at negative 196. It was still working. I made her shut down the system so I could examine it properly. The tape had cold welded to itself in ways that should have made it brittle and useless. Instead, it formed this weird flexible lattice that distributed pressure across the layers. My instruments said it shouldn't exist. The coolant pressure gauge said it was fine. The air system was worse. Vidian's atmospheric processor uses quantum filtration membranes, extremely delicate, manufactured in zero-contamination facilities, cost more than most ships. The swarm had shredded 2 membranes. Human solution, they'd installed replacement membranes made from food storage containers. These are for sandwiches, I said. Yeah, the semi-permeable ones, for keeping lettuce crispy. This is a life support system. Yep, I tested the improvised membranes. Molecularly, they were nothing like regulation filtration media. They were thicker, less efficient, full of manufacturing inconsistencies. They also worked, barely. The atmospheric composition had more variance than regulation allowed. Oxygen fluctuated between 19.8 and 20.3% instead of holding steady at 20.0. You were breathing irregular air for 6 days? Okoye shrugged. Felt fine. The engineer in me wanted to file a formal violation report. The scientist in me couldn't stop staring at the readouts. The sandwich containers were self-regulating somehow, compensating for pressure changes through material flex that shouldn't have been possible with that polymer composition. I sampled one. It smelled like mustard. Then she showed me the electrical system. I'm not going to describe it in detail because the consortium made me sign a non-disclosure agreement. Not to protect human secrets, to protect our reputation. If the licensing board knew we'd certified a station where this was possible, they'd revoke our institutional accreditation. I'll tell you this much. The secondary power junction was rerouted through a piece of recreational equipment. The kind humans use for competitive physical games involving a ball. It was still plugged into the wall outlet. It had been conducting 40,000 watts for 6 days. The regulations I'd memorized, the physics I'd studied, the material science I'd published papers about, none of it explained why that object hadn't exploded, melted, or started a cascade failure that killed everyone aboard. Okoye saw my expression. "You want some coffee?" "I don't drink coffee." I was too busy recalculating whether I understood material conductivity at all. Here's what I asked her. "How did you know any of this would work?" "Didn't." "Then why?" "Because doing nothing definitely wouldn't work." She said it like it was obvious. "Look, we had 4 hours, maybe less. Didn't have time to run stress tests or wait for proper replacement parts. Had to try stuff." "You experimented with life support during a critical failure?" "Yep." "That violates." I stopped. I was about to cite regulation codes to someone who'd survived by ignoring them. Okoye leaned against a support beam that I noticed was being held in place partially by wire that looked like it came from a kitchen appliance. Here's the thing about proper engineering. It's great when you've got time, materials, and a controlled environment. We had none of that, so we did stupid stuff that worked instead of smart stuff we didn't have. I filed my report. Took me 3 weeks. The consortium sent it back. Said I must have made observational errors. Said I needed to retest the repairs with proper instruments, because the described solutions violated basic thermodynamic principles. I went back to Vidian. Brought better sensors, 2 colleague witnesses, certification-grade testing equipment. Everything still worked. One of my colleagues started laughing during the power grid examination. Just stood there, laughing until she had to sit down. The other one requested an immediate transfer to a different research project. Wouldn't say why. We don't teach the Vidian Reach incident in standard xeno-engineering courses. It's filed under operational exceptions requiring further study. That's consortium language for, "We don't know what to do with this information. But I'm teaching it to you, in this advanced seminar, because eventually you'll work near human installations. And eventually, something will break in a way that shouldn't be survivable. And some human engineer is going to fix it with objects that have no business being in a maintenance bay. And it's going to work. Your training says engineering is about precision, about material science, about following proven methodologies. Human engineering is about the question, but what if we just tried anyway? I don't have a framework for that. The consortium doesn't have a framework for that. That's why this is a classified seminar instead of a published paper. Because if I formally documented that sandwich containers can replace quantum filtration membranes, or that recreational equipment can handle industrial power loads, I'd be admitting that half of what we teach is unnecessarily complicated. And maybe it is. I don't know anymore. What I know is this: Vidian Reach is still operational. They never replaced most of those improvised repairs. Station Chief Okoye said proper parts would take 8 months to arrive, and what they had was working fine. Last I heard, the athletic tape needed rotating every 12 hours now instead of 8. They considered that an improvement. Class dismissed.